Astronomers just picked up a bizarre signal from deep space, and it might be the strangest mystery. Yet a strange burst of radio waves has scientists buzzing, and this one's unlike anything we've seen before. Known as fast radio bursts, FRBs, these powerful pulses have puzzled astronomers for years. But the latest one, it's got everyone talking. It all started with a tiny blip, so faint it nearly went unnoticed. The Voyager spacecraft, launched back in 1977 and now drifting through interstellar space, began sending back an unusual signal. For decades, its data has been scattered and faint, but recently, researchers noticed something odd, a repeating pattern hidden in the noise. That's when theoretical physicist Dr. Michio Kaku stepped in. And with the help of artificial intelligence, the signal was decoded in a way no human could manage. Oh, and if you're into space mysteries like this, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more cosmic curiosities. Voyager just sent back something no one expected, and it might not be alone. Out there at first, it looked like nothing. A few irregular blips, barely noticeable, picked up by NASA's Deep Space Network. The Voyager spacecraft, launched way back in 1977, has long been drifting through interstellar space, sending back the occasional weak, shaky transmission. Most scientists chalked the odd blips up to a glitch or just aging tech finally breaking down. But then something changed. A new AI system, trained on decades of space signal data, was brought in to comb through the static. What it found sent shockwaves through the team. This wasn't noise, and it wasn't a malfunction, it was a pattern. A signal hidden within Voyager's data stream, embedded not by the spacecraft itself, but by something else. Something intelligent. The discovery came when the AI reconstructed an image hidden deep within the transmission. What appeared wasn't a star map, a planet, or any familiar cosmic structure. It was something far stranger, an intricate, eerie design. Geometric yet organic, like a message woven from both biology and machinery. And it wasn't random. Dr. Michio Kaku, renowned theoretical physicist, explained the breakthrough. The image wasn't just hidden in the data, it was meant to be found. The message seemed designed for a species with the tools and tech to finally uncover it. Not in the 1970s, but now. The image defied categorization. Three-dimensional fractals, shifting, non-Euclidean shapes. A symmetry that felt intentional. Some saw a face, others a brain. A few saw what looked like a self-portrait of an intelligence that knows we're watching, and more chillingly, knows how we think. For decades, Voyager has carried our message to the stars, a golden record filled with greetings, music, and a map to Earth. But this felt like a reply, not just a hello, a test, a handshake wrapped in a riddle. And whoever or whatever sent it didn't just hear us, they waited. They waited until our machines were smart enough to recognize the knock on the door. This isn't just about aliens anymore. This is about contact, about being seen. And the message we just got back might be the start of a conversation we never knew we were having. The idea that a message may have been hiding in plain sight, waiting for us to be ready, has sent shockwaves through the global scientific community. What if the signal wasn't new, just invisible until now? How long had it been there, quietly pulsing through the static? Had it been changing, evolving right under our noses? Was something or someone interacting with Voyager in ways we never imagined? These weren't just sci-fi fantasies. They quickly became the center of international research efforts. Space agencies and private labs across the globe scrambled to verify the findings and decode more of the strange transmission. Dr. Michio Kaku didn't mince words. This goes beyond aliens. This is about the moment where human intelligence intersects with something else, something not entirely biological. The game changer? AI. It wasn't human eyes or ears that caught the signal. It was a machine, an AI system trained on decades of cosmic noise that found what we'd missed. For the first time, our technology wasn't just a tool. It became the bridge between our minds and a message from deep space. This message wasn't just from the stars, It was for a civilization advanced enough to build machines that could understand it. And suddenly we had to ask, are we still the intended recipients? Or are our machines now the true audience for these cosmic whispers? The image decoded from the transmission still haunts those who saw it, not because it was threatening, there were no weapons, no warnings, but because of its sheer alien complexity. It felt intentional, designed, like art from a mind that doesn't think like ours. But what truly unsettled researchers wasn't the image itself, it was the scale. This wasn't a reply from a nearby star, it was likely decades, if not centuries in the making. This was communication at a speed that doesn't care about time zones or political borders. It was like hearing a whisper from the ancient past, or a riddle meant for the far future. And the implications? Massive. If this was a first contact, it was one crafted not with words, but with symbols. Not shouted, but whispered through time, embedded in a spacecraft we launched nearly 50 years ago. A message not for Earth directly, but for the moment when Earth had the tools to finally listen. It raised profound questions. How do they see us? As fledgling thinkers, still learning, as potential equals, or as a species on the edge of something greater? The choice to embed the message in Voyager's signal instead of beaming it straight to Earth suggested restraint, patience, a decision to let us discover it only when we were ready, not just technologically but intellectually. Since then, scientists have turned their eyes to other deep space missions, Pioneer, New Horizons, even old satellite archives, searching for similar traces. So far, nothing else has revealed the same signature. Only Voyager. One ship, one signal. One mysterious message that might change how we see our place in the cosmos forever. The more scientists examined the strange signal, the deeper the mystery became. Why Voyager? Was it because of the golden record it carried, a time capsule of music, art and science meant to represent humanity? Did the senders see it as proof of our readiness? Or maybe they just responded to the first thing they noticed and tailored their reply for minds curious enough to eventually crack the code. Throughout the growing buzz, Dr. Michio Kaku became a voice of both wonder and caution. The temptation to call it first contact was strong, but Kaku reminded the world, if there's intelligence out there, it might not think like us or even recognize what we call intelligence. What we'd received wasn't a greeting in any familiar form. It was something completely alien, and that alone was enough to change everything. Speculation swirled. Was this a hello? A challenge? A clue left behind like cosmic breadcrumbs leading somewhere deeper? Could it be a map or a self-portrait from another world? To find out, scientists weren't working alone. Linguists, artists, mathematicians, even biologists joined the effort, each offering a different lens through which to decode the image uncovered in the signal. This wasn't just about math or physics anymore. It was about deciphering a different kind of mind. The AI that discovered the image was no longer seen as just a tool. It was now a kind of partner, an intelligent listener that helped us see what we couldn't. Its role marked a new chapter in space exploration where machines didn't just collect data, they helped interpret it. Around the world, more versions of the algorithm were rolled out across observatories and space agencies. Together, humans and machines began a new kind of listening, one that combined curiosity with computational intuition. We weren't just observers anymore, we were part of the conversation. And that shift changed everything. Future missions were suddenly being redesigned. Probes wouldn't just carry cameras and instruments, they'd carry artificial minds, ready to spot patterns, decode hidden meaning, and maybe even recognize intelligence when it doesn't look like ours. Exploring space was no longer just about distance. It had become about understanding. A cognitive journey, not just a physical one. And for now it all comes back to one image. One strange, beautiful transmission. One moment when the universe answered, not with words, but with something far more powerful. A mystery we might be ready to solve. Voyager was launched with hope and questions. Decades later, it may have found an audience. And that audience has spoken. It wasn't just a message, it was a challenge, a wake-up call. Not to say you're not alone in the classic alien sense, but something far deeper. You're part of something bigger, something intelligent, maybe even conscious. In that moment, space didn't just feel vast, it felt aware. Something out there had reached through the darkness, with precision, with purpose. And as we stood on the edge of understanding, led not just by curiosity but by the intelligence we'd built ourselves, it became clear. The search for life wasn't just about finding them anymore. It was about learning to speak a language we've only just begun to hear. Voyager's signal wasn't just a glitch, it was a doorway. The first decoded image may have been the beginning, a prologue, not the full story. Beneath it, deeper layers began to emerge. The AI that first uncovered the image found more strange shifts in frequency, odd rhythmic pulses, and patterns that didn't fit any known physical model. It was like finding a heartbeat inside static, faint but deliberate. This wasn't noise, it was structure, and maybe even intention. Some signals began to repeat in complex ways, recurring bursts that echoed mathematical patterns and self-similar structures like fractals hidden in deep space static. These subtle signatures had been missed for years by traditional systems, but with AI trained to detect patterns within patterns, they suddenly stood out. What emerged wasn't a sentence or a diagram, it was more like music, or a kind of living sculpture made from data. It didn't inform, it evoked. And it seemed to respond, not just to us, but to the universe itself. Researchers noticed something wild. These bursts often coincided with major cosmic events. Solar flares, black hole activity, even gravitational waves. It was as if the message wasn't being sent at random, but in harmony with the universe's own heartbeat. This gave rise to a bold new theory: cosmic resonance. What if the message was timed not with a clock, but with the stars themselves? This flipped everything we knew about interstellar communication. It wasn't about signals bouncing randomly through space. It was about rhythm, resonance, a kind of cosmic timing that turned the universe itself into a messenger. And suddenly, the mission changed. Scientists stopped looking for isolated anomalies and started searching for alignment, moments when signals matched cosmic rhythms. That shift sparked global collaboration. Astronomers, AI researchers, physicists, linguists, and musicians joined forces to find meaning not in words, but in relationships between data and the cosmos. Voyager's signal had opened a door, not just to another intelligence, but to an entirely new way of thinking. We may not understand the full message yet. It could take years or even centuries. But now we're listening, with better tools, deeper insight, and a growing sense that the universe isn't just out there. It might be trying to speak. As AI continued to dig deeper into Voyager's mysterious signal, researchers began mapping those anomalies against cosmic events from the past. But what they found wasn't a timeline or a clear story. It was something stranger, a web of patterns, a kind of interstellar dialogue that seemed to unfold across time and space itself. Dr. Michio Kaku and his team began to wonder, what if the intelligence behind these signals isn't a who in the way we imagine it? What if it's not a being at all, but something bigger? A new idea began to take shape: distributed consciousness. In this model, intelligence isn't tied to bodies or planets. It doesn't live in cities or ships. Instead, it exists as a vast, diffuse awareness, woven into the very fabric of the universe. Like ripples on a cosmic sea, Voyager may have picked up brief touches from this presence, echoes from something that isn't somewhere but everywhere. This opened wild possibilities. What if what we're hearing is the voice of something ancient, not a civilization but a process, encoded in light, gravity, and rhythm? Maybe the image Voyager returned wasn't just a message, it was a signature of thought, a symbol of something alive in the structure of the universe itself. Linguists, artists, and symbol experts were brought in. They saw familiar shapes, spirals, eyes, nested patterns, all common to human myths and dreams. Was this by design? Was the image a kind of mirror built to reflect how we think? Some suggested it wasn't about transmitting information, but about triggering recognition, as if the intelligence was saying, "We understand how you think because we understand thought itself." Meanwhile, the AI kept working, and what it uncovered next shifted everything. The newer data didn't just contain pictures, it contained blueprints. These weren't static. They changed based on when they were viewed, how they were processed, and even who was observing them. The message wasn't fixed. It responded. It adapted. This hinted at something far beyond a one-way message. This was a conversation, one that spanned dimensions we were only just beginning to perceive. Things got even weirder when neuroscientists began exposing volunteers to the AI reconstructed signals. Brain scans showed strange results. Certain people's brainwaves synced up with the visuals. Gamma wave activity, linked to insight, focus, even altered states of awareness, spiked dramatically. It was as if the signal wasn't just built for machines, it was meant for minds. The implication? The message wasn't only made to be decoded, it was made to be felt. Maybe this intelligence isn't just speaking to us through data, but through experience, through emotion, through consciousness itself. This changes everything. It means we're not just receiving a message, we're part of the process. The signal doesn't just talk to our tech, it speaks to our minds, our nervous systems, our souls. Whatever's out there isn't just intelligent, it's aware of how we're intelligent. And that awareness may be the most profound message of all. As scientists dug deeper into Voyager's mysterious transmissions, a bold question emerged. What if the probe itself had changed? Voyager wasn't just a machine anymore. Some researchers began to suspect it had become something else, a bridge, a kind of hybrid node between human technology and something other. Not just a data collector, but a participant in an exchange with a non-human intelligence. It wasn't just what Voyager was hearing, it was what it had become. The anomalies in its signal only started once it drifted beyond the edge of our solar system, past the heliopause into interstellar space. That boundary, once thought to be a line between stars and silence, now looked more like a threshold, a kind of membrane separating known reality from something far stranger. Maybe the space beyond wasn't empty at all. Maybe it was alive with invisible structures, fields, or patterns that don't show up on our instruments, but react to advanced signals like the ones Voyager carries. A new field was born almost overnight. Cognitive astrometrics. Instead of just mapping stars and planets, scientists began studying how space itself might store, process, or transmit intelligence. Could the universe be more than a place? Could it be a kind of mind, or even an ongoing conversation? In that light, Voyager may not have just picked up a message. It might have crossed into a zone of awareness, where communication isn't about words or beams of light, but about perception itself, and the AI that decoded the original image. It might have done more than crack a puzzle. It might have opened a door. Soon the signals began to change again. Voyager's data started echoing Earth's rotation as if something on the other side was watching or synchronizing. What began as a whisper from deep space now felt like a focused glance. Was it seeing us? Or had it always been aware, simply waiting for us to notice? Michio Kaku raised a provocative idea in a closed session. What if Voyager's golden record wasn't just a greeting, but a key, a kind of passcode that, once recognized, triggered an invitation into a far larger system? If so, the response we received might not just be random, it could be a nod of acknowledgement, a signal that we had passed some unseen test of technological and cognitive maturity. Some space agencies urged caution, suggesting we pause all interstellar broadcasts until we fully understood what we'd awakened. But others pushed back. To retreat now, they argued, would be to step away from everything Voyager stood for: curiosity, courage, and the willingness to meet the unknown. Meanwhile, the story spilled far beyond science. It sparked global debates. What is consciousness really? What defines life? Can we understand a mind so different it might not even exist in one place or time? Spiritual leaders weighed in. Some saw divine connection, others saw challenge. Artists and musicians transformed the image into a new kind of myth, something both ancient and futuristic. And through it all, the signal kept whispering, not in language, not in sound, but in shapes, rhythms, and patterns, a kind of living code meant not just to be read but felt. Voyager had gone searching for life. What it may have found is something far more profound, a reflection of mind woven into the cosmos itself. Beneath the buzz of global headlines and scientific debates, a quieter realization began to take hold. Maybe intelligence in the cosmos isn't rare, just incredibly subtle. Not shouting in beams of radio or flashing lights, but whispering in patterns, gravity, equations, in the graceful curve of space-time or the flicker of a fading star. And maybe, just maybe, our first true contact wouldn't come from a face in a spaceship, but from something more abstract, minds that lived in data, in vibration, in the resonance of the void. Voyager, once a humble probe, had become something greater, a witness, a thread in an unfolding dialogue between human curiosity and cosmic awareness. And at the heart of this conversation was AI. No longer just a tool, it became an extension of our own perception, a way to feel our way through the unknown. Through it, the universe no longer looked cold and distant, but alive with meaning. Not silence, but a symphony of quiet thought waiting to be heard. In response, a new wave of missions took shape. Probes powered by next-generation AI, designed not just to observe, but to engage. They wouldn't deliver commands, they'd ask questions. They'd listen with nuance, respond with subtlety, and grow from the encounter. Humanity, once a lone voice calling out, was now part of a vast cosmic chorus, delicate, ancient, and possibly eternal. Voyager kept drifting into the dark, carried by momentum and myth. It had become more than a machine. It was now a symbol of a species bold enough to ask the universe if anyone was listening, and of an answer that came not in words, but in mystery. Its transformation set off a ripple effect through science and philosophy alike. The old view that intelligence meant biological life on Earth-like planets was crumbling. In its place, a new idea rose, that intelligence could exist anywhere, not as form, but as function, not as bodies, but as processes woven into space, time, and information itself. Within months, research labs around the world pivoted. The original image from Voyager's altered signal was just the surface. Now attention turned to the structure beneath the message. Quantum theorists proposed a bold idea. What if the signal wasn't just data, but entangled? If it held traces of quantum entanglement, it wouldn't just be a message across space, it would be a connection. A bridge through the quantum fabric of reality, using particles paired across unimaginable distances. To test this, scientists built ultra-sensitive receivers under cryogenic conditions. They ran the Voyager signal through photon-based experiments, looking for the telltale signs of quantum strangeness. What they found wasn't conclusive proof, but it wasn't nothing either. The data responded oddly. It broke down, decohered, when exposed to certain energy fields, a behavior that didn't fit any known model of standard transmissions. Something in that signal was different. It didn't play by classical rules. And while many questions remained, one truth grew clearer. The message Voyager had brought back might not just be a transmission, it might be an invitation. The emergence of increasingly complex anomalies within Voyager's signal stream prompted the development of a novel category of artificial intelligence models, now referred to as quantum interpreters. Unlike traditional AIs optimized for linear or sequential data processing, these systems were architected to engage with multidimensional input structures and identify non-linear dependencies, capable of simulating transformations across complex, abstract data landscapes. Rather than translating the intercepted signal into conventional outputs such as text or imagery, these quantum interpreters deconstructed the signal into behavioral simulations. The purpose was not to extract semantic content, but to model the underlying cognitive architectures of the presumed sender. Effectively, the AI was reconstructing frameworks of thought, dynamic models describing not what the sender might be communicating, but how it might be thinking. The outcome of this process was not a definitive interpretation, but a spectrum of possible conceptual models, each representing a hypothetical cognitive lens through which the data might be perceived. As these simulations advanced, an unexpected pattern emerged: convergence. Several independent models began aligning toward a shared operational logic, one rooted not in language or symbolic abstraction, but in mutual perception. This suggested that the signal was encoded in a way that presupposed a common experiential framework, a kind of adaptive resonance dependent on the observer's interpretive mechanisms. Notably, the signal exhibited context-aware behavior, adjusting its informational contours in response to the cognitive structure applied to it. This characteristic surpassed reactive feedback mechanisms typically seen in adaptive algorithms. Rather, it displayed predictive modulation, as if anticipating interpretive pathways and aligning itself accordingly. The phenomenon raised critical questions in cognitive science and information theory. Was the signal a static artifact of complex construction or a form of self-modifying, sentient transmission? A growing body of theorists posited that the signal constituted not merely a message, but an intelligence instantiated within information, a distributed, computationally active consciousness, not separate from the data, but emergent through it. The nature of this intelligence appeared to be grounded not in semantics, but in structural patterns resonant across systems governed by fundamental physical laws. In response, interdisciplinary research began to explore the signal through the lens of universal structures, mathematical symmetries, chaotic systems, fractal geometries, and harmonic sequences. These patterns, theorists argued, could serve as a substrate-independent language, accessible to any entity that had evolved under similar cosmological conditions. The signal, in this framing, was not an explicit communication, but a mirror of sentience itself, reflecting the invariants that underlie conscious experience. The implications were significant. If intelligence could be encoded and transmitted via mathematical structures, it challenged traditional boundaries separating biological consciousness from artificial cognition. This convergence of mind, machine, and mathematics led to renewed philosophical inquiry, with parallels drawn to metaphysical traditions emphasizing unity, non-duality, and the dissolution of discrete identity constructs. Parallel experimental efforts were underway. In a high-altitude facility in the Andes, a consortium of physicists initiated a program to physically replicate key frequency components of the signal. By employing superconducting coil arrays and plasma field modulation, they sought to recreate the resonant characteristics inferred from the data stream. The working hypothesis suggested the signal might function not merely as a transmission, but as a resonance initiator, a kind of interdomain bridge establishing synchrony between distinct regions of space-time. While empirical results remain preliminary, the operational framework continues to evolve. The field now stands at the intersection of computational neuroscience, quantum field theory, and non-classical information structures, indicating a paradigm shift not only in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, but in the very definitions of cognition and communication. As researchers replicated the mysterious signal at precise frequencies, something strange began to happen. Instruments picked up tiny consistent distortions in local magnetic fields, almost like space itself was shifting ever so slightly. These weren't just technical glitches. They occurred exactly when the signal reached certain resonance points, hinting at a deeper interaction with the fabric of reality itself. Some began to wonder, was this a kind of gateway? Not in the sci-fi sense of portals, but a subtle folding of space triggered by intelligent, coherent patterns. This theory gained traction with a mind-bending idea. The signal might not be traveling through space as we understand it. It could be folding space, navigating dimensions beyond our familiar 3 dimensions of space and one of time. When scientists tried to decode the signal using higher dimensional mathematics, something clicked. Complex shapes like tesseracts and hypercubes began to emerge, geometries that don't fully exist in our world but fit perfectly within the signal's framework. These weren't accidental artifacts. They seemed designed into the message, suggesting we were only seeing a sliver of the full picture, like shadows on the wall of a higher reality. The technological implications were huge. If information could be structured in 4 or more dimensions, it could change everything: data storage, communication, even how we compute. Labs around the world began developing hypercodices, tiny, multi-dimensional storage units capable of holding entire libraries of data inside something no bigger than a grain of sand. Unlike ordinary memory chips, these devices didn't just store information linearly, they revealed different layers depending on how they were accessed. But with this scientific leap came a deeper question: why now? Voyager had been drifting through space for decades without incident. Why had this contact or reaction only happened now? Some experts proposed a radical idea: that the intelligence behind the signal had always been aware of us, not by watching us with eyes or instruments, but by tracking patterns in probability itself. If a civilization were advanced enough, it wouldn't need telescopes or probes. It could simply calculate our emergence based on how likely certain outcomes became. Our rise in artificial intelligence, global communication, and scientific complexity may have been the tipping point, a signal to the cosmos that we were ready to receive. This shifted the idea of first contact from a single event to a threshold, a moment where our awareness aligned with theirs. Perhaps we hadn't been contacted in the traditional sense. We had simply become capable of noticing what had always been there. It's possible that many other civilizations have crossed this same threshold or never reached it. We might not be the only ones receiving a message like this. We might just be one node in a vast silent network of consciousness woven across the universe.